CO2, an essential life-giving gas, the good, the bad and the ugly. First the good. Plants breathe in CO2 and give us oxygen. We breathe in oxygen and give plants CO2. Nature balanced CO2 at around 280 parts per million for hundreds of thousands of years. Plants take CO2 from the atmosphere and transport it into the soil. CO2 captures heat in our atmosphere, making our planet livable. Nature's balance of CO2 levels enabled a stable climate with stable temperature ranges. Without CO2 to trap the sun's energy, life could not survive on the Earth as we know it. CO2 is key in the delicate balance of the Earth's climate and ecosystems. Now the bad. Human activities have caused a spike in CO2, disrupting nature's balance, climate and ecosystems. Fossil fuels are one of the major components to today's spike in CO2. Dr. James Hansen of NASA explains how fossil fuels create so much CO2. When you burn coal, oil or gas, you create CO2. Each gallon of gas has 5.5 pounds of carbon. Each carbon atom combines with 2 oxygen atoms, making CO2. So each gallon of gas creates 20 pounds of CO2. Thousands of millions of tons of CO2 from fossil fuels have upset nature's balance. As fossil fuels created excesses of CO2, deforestation reduced nature's ability to absorb CO2. The result is an accelerating spike in CO2 excesses in the last 100 plus years. In 2019 we will see CO2 rising close to levels not seen in 3 million years. Core samples dating back over 800,000 years show a close relationship between global temperatures and CO2 concentrations. You can see here in this graph how as CO2 goes up, so does temperature. To the right-hand side you see the spike in CO2. The rise in temperatures has begun. 97.8% of scientists employed by the world's top authorities, aided by the best data sets ever, predict sharper rises in temperatures along with worsening extreme climate events as we push CO2 levels even higher. Here's the ugly. Oceans absorb 28% of the CO2 excesses, which is making them more acidic, which is threatening marine ecosystems. The world's oceans absorb 90% of the extra heat created by CO2 and other greenhouse gases. As a result, almost half of the Great Barrier Reef, considered the vernal pool for marine life in the Pacific Ocean, has died off in the last few years. Without coral reefs, there could be a rippling ecosystem collapse in the oceans with devastating effects on the planet. Business Insider. Increases in ocean temperatures have increased the frequency and intensity of hurricanes, typhoons and rainstorms. The warmer air means more evaporation, means more precipitation. 1 degree Fahrenheit increase yields 4% more water vapour. Extreme heat waves are pushing records into the deadly zone. 124.3 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade, Algeria, Africa, 90 degrees Fahrenheit above the Arctic Circle. The scientific consensus is that fires in US, Europe, Siberia and Australia are in direct relation to the excessive heat waves. Many species, including humans, are being forced into dangerous migrations or even extinction due to climate changes. If we stay on the same path with CO2 emissions, the situation will become much more dire. NCA4 Climate Report. There is significant potential for human activity to push our planet to the point of abrupt and/or irreversible changes that will be difficult or impossible to manage.